Hello everybody and welcome back to Robert's Reviews. Today we are... what day is it? It is the 30th, so it is my dad's birthday. So if you see my dad today, which you probably won't because he's probably not home, wish him a happy birthday. Post on his wall. Happy birthday, Dad, if you're watching this. Hello. Today we are going to be reviewing another request. This was requested in the comments by Chance. So thank you, shout out to you in the comments for suggesting this review. If you would like one of your movies reviewed by me, put it in the comments down below and I'll give it a watch over the next few months and I'll upload a video and I will shout you out as well. With that, we are going to be reviewing Ready Player One. Ready Player One came out in... Good questions. Ready Player One, before I say when it came out, was written by Zach Penn and Ernest Cline, who actually wrote the book as well, in case you didn't know, and was directed by the fantastic Steven Spielberg. So, Steven Spielberg is something that I am going to be reviewing in the future. I'm going to be doing an entire series on Steven Spielberg. I don't know exactly when yet. It probably won't start until about June, because that is when I'll be done with most of my series, and I'll be starting a whole bunch of new series like Jim Carrey and Steve Spielberg. I'm going to do a Martin McDonagh series, but that'll be a very short series of like 3 movies. In probably July, I'll do all the Harry Potter movies all in, but yeah, I'm going to be doing some new series, and this is one of the ones I plan on doing is Steven Spielberg, because I think he's a phenomenal movie maker, and I really do enjoy his work, and this did not disappoint almost at all. For those of you who have not watched Ready Player One, it is about a futuristic world. It's like 2048 or something like that. I don't even remember. And basically what happens is there's this virtual reality place called the Oasis. Now, the Oasis is a virtual reality place, so you just put on a headset like this. For those of you who don't know what virtual reality is, this is a virtual reality headset. Okay, I can put it on like this, and I can't see anything, right? Oh. But these cameras here, right, will pick up like all the things that are nearby, and then it'll track my hands with these controllers here like this, and you hold them like this, so like this one, and essentially it'll track your movements so you can play like you're in real life. Now, this movie, which is based off of a novel by Ernest Cline, takes it to a whole new level, right? So they give you gloves and like body armor, and so that it'll just track your hands, and it'll track like where you get shot in the game. You can like feel it in real life. And this is like the big thing in 2048. Okay, it's massive. It's a huge deal. I think we're closer than the book says. The book says 2048 or something like that. And don't quote me on that, but it is like the 2040s. I think we'll have this in the next like 5 years. This might be a real thing. I know there's already real haptic suits. I mean, I love this virtual reality headset. It works great. It's so much fun. If you don't have one and you have the means to get one, I would recommend doing it. It's a lot of fun. But again, this is a whole new like level. It's like virtual reality to the extreme, which, don't get me wrong, is something that we can totally see in the future and is 100% possible, and would not surprise me if we got to see something similar to that within the next like 5 to 10 years. And essentially what happens is there is the creator, Halliday, and he has left Easter eggs in the game after he dies. So there's 3 challenges to earn 3 keys, and whoever gets all 3 of those gets the rights to decide what happens with the Oasis, how they want to format it, anything like that, and also gets a lot of money. So there are people, I think they're called Gunters, and one of them is Parzival, or Wade Watts in the real world, but his avatar's name is Parzival. And so he goes into the Oasis, and it is his one and only passion and goal is to find all 3 of these keys. He wants to take on Halliday's mantle because he knows Halliday. Everyone in the Oasis knows about Halliday and all of his favorite things in the whole world, and they're thinking that they're going to use those to find the Easter eggs. So, we have him. There's also Artemis, who is another person. She's a girl, Artemis is. In real life, and I should mention, in real life and in the game, she's a girl. And she's also a Gunter who is looking to do that. And then there's H, who is Parzival's best friend, and they're like kind of sort of working together. They all meet and work together to find all these things, and they're basically working against Sorrento and the Sixers. And Sorrento is this big corporation. He owns this big corporation, and he's using the Sixers, so he's got like hundreds of people in the Oasis every day trying to find these keys. But Parzival finds one first, and it ignites this huge war essentially between the Sixers and these Gunters, and who can find all the keys first. So Parzival, Artemis, and H, and a couple other people decide, all right, we need to get together and find these keys. So they found them, and they won, essentially. I mean, that's a long story short. If you want more of the details on that, watch the movie. It's fantastic and definitely worth the watch, particularly if you're a nerd. There's a lot of references to a lot of nerdy things in there. There's references to Dune, which is like the basis of everything nerdy. D&D references, Marvel references, book references, computer references, video game references galore. I mean, one of the main cars is a DeLorean. I mean, really, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful piece of fan service, in my opinion. So that's basically the whole movie. I'm going to talk about what I like about it first, and then I'm going to talk about the characters. What I like about it is that it is fan service without being fan service, right? Like when I watched Endgame and we saw Captain America pick up the hammer and all that stuff, it was like, that's fan service, right? That is when the movies and the directors are like, okay, what can we do to make our fans go, oh, right? So they do that. This is interesting because we have a situation here where this is entirely just fan service, right? They're thinking, how many references can we put in this movie without having to pay extra money, and so that the audience will be like, hey, there's the Iron Giant, or hey, that's the DeLorean. All these things, which is really interesting and really fun to watch, and I'm sure people watch this movie over and over again looking for different references or Easter eggs. There's a lot of Easter eggs. Well, if you don't know what an Easter egg is, in a video game, it's like a secret hidden thing that is like very secret and hard to find, or like in Pixar movies, they always have like hints of other movies where like in Monsters Inc. you find the ball and Nemo's in that one, and then in like Toy Story you'll see the ball and like a toy Nemo and all that stuff, and it just goes like they're like secret little things that the directors or the filmmakers put in there to it's essentially small fan service. It's fan service on a very small scale. And this just everywhere, Easter eggs everywhere, and it is fun to watch. I had a few issues with the movies, and really the big thing is a lot of it just kind of feels rushed, which makes sense because it is a rushed movie, right? We start off with them looking for the first key, and then they spent years, I mean like literally years, looking for the first key. And then once they found it, it was like, oh, and then an hour later they win. It just really felt like no time had passed, and that they really just kind of got all three keys super fast. Which I guess really isn't the movie's fault. One thing I think the movie could have benefited from is saying that Howard had just died and that they're just starting to look for the keys. That way it makes it kind of seem a little bit easier. Like, it just seems impossible that they would find all three keys within like 24 hours of each other. It just seems impossible, and it is impossible. In the book, there's weeks of it. It'll be like, all right, 2 weeks passed, great. But in a movie, you can't be like 2 weeks later. It's just dumb. It doesn't work. But it is a big fault in my opinion because it just kind of gives me like whiplash almost, especially considering I'm already paying attention to all these little details and these Easter eggs that are fun, but don't really necessarily have anything to do with the plot. And I think some of the characters, the minor characters, could have benefited from a little bit more screen time. The bigger characters we had a lot of backstory for and a lot of fun with. And even not even necessarily a lot of backstory, but a lot of front and attack you. You know, it's like, boom, story. Even considering it's all set in the present, we have some really cool twists and turns, which I'll discuss now and talk about characters. First of all, we have Ty Sheridan as Parzival/Wade Watts. So he's Wade Watts in the real world. His avatar name is Parzival. So, I didn't love his performance, but I didn't hate it either. He didn't really seem nerdy enough for me in real life. When he was in the Oasis, I could be like, yeah, he's probably a nerd. But in real life, he just kind of seems like a hunk with glasses on. And I didn't really fully believe that he was a nerd. That's sort of my only negative about it. Other than that, you can see he had a lot of fun, and I think that we could have benefited for some more real-life action sequences, because it just doesn't feel like it's a huge deal, in the Oasis. There's this whole war, which, yes, is a big deal because it can affect who can go in the Oasis and all that stuff. But at the same time, when they die, they just lose all their stuff. Like, they don't die in the real world. So it felt like we could have used more real-world issues. And I think that Ty Sheridan could have done a lot of really cool stunts. And they kind of were like, just put it all digital. Which is, I guess, okay considering it is a digital movie. For those of you who are curious, I normally have the books like with me. You know that, like normally when I'm talking about an adaptation, and this is one that I have read. For those of you who are curious, I read it a while ago, before the movie came out. But it is in a box somewhere. I don't know. I have a very small bookshelf in here, as you can see. That's my bookshelf, and most of it is just teen novels that I love, like John Green novels, my signed copies, and a bunch of books about acting in movies, and scripts, lots of scripts. It's in a box somewhere. I normally have it, but I don't right now, so I'm sorry. Olivia Cooke as Artemis or Samantha Cooke. Their last names are the same, which is interesting, but not related. Artemis is the avatar of Samantha Cooke. And Samantha is kind of ashamed of herself because in real life she has a birthmark over her eye, which makeup department, good job. It did look very real. Even I honestly thought she had a birthmark there, and it wasn't all just an act, but it was just an act. But she's like a huge gunter in the Oasis. Everyone knows her name, and it's a big deal. And it's an even bigger deal when she teams up with Parzival. And Parzival and Artemis kind of get in this lovely relationship that kind of felt rushed and unnecessary. I didn't really need it. I liked it. I liked that it was there. I just felt like it could have been used in a better way. One other side note, I apologize if you're hearing a lot of background noise. My mother's dog is being very active today, and my sister's child is being obnoxious a little bit today. So I apologize if the next few videos seem like there's a lot of background noise. Just consider it ambient noise. Overall, I didn't hate Olivia Cooke's acting. I think that maybe she was one of the better performances of the movie. The performances kind of felt lackluster anyway, just because a lot of it's just CGI motion tracking, and you don't even see a lot of the real features of them, more so than you kind of just hear their voices. But I think that in the real world, Olivia Cooke had the best performance. Ben Mendelsohn as Sorrento. So Sorrento's a big bad guy, and another issue that I have with the movie is really it just felt like the bad guy didn't really matter, right? There was no way that the bad guy was going to win. You knew that from the start. You were like, okay, well, he's not going to win. He just didn't seem like a bad guy, you know? It was like comparing, a small... I'm having a hard time thinking of a small one. Yellow Jacket from Ant-Man, comparing that to, Thanos, right? It's like, wow, Yellow Jacket's definitely not going to win this. And that's what I felt like in this movie. I was like, I really didn't need a bad guy. I feel like we could have been fine without a bad guy and really just focusing on the whole journey of winning the keys. It doesn't have, not everything has to have a bad guy. There has to be an antagonist. I agree. But an antagonist does not have to be a person. And this is one of the times where I thought maybe we could have benefited from not having a bad guy. That being said, Mendelsohn did a really good job. I really enjoyed his work. Nothing against him. It's more against, I just don't really think we needed one. I think it worked well in the book, but I think in the movie it just added a lot of confusion and slight annoyance, in my opinion, because it just felt like it kind of dragged a little bit, particularly when talking about Sorrento, who, in my opinion, wasn't even a big bad guy. And finally, we have Lena Waithe as H/Helen. So in the Oasis, H is a giant, monster dude, and it's a big deal. And he's, best friends with Parzival. And in the real life, H, who is Helen, is a female. So she's H is always telling Parzival to not trust people in the Oasis because you don't know what they're like in the real world. But that is because H is a female. He is Helen, and Helen in the real world is a female. And they meet in real life, and they're like, whoa, and it's this really cool moment. And I liked the moment. I just felt like it was pushed aside. It was whoa, she's a woman, and then moving on. I'm we could have spent a little more time describing that and working with that a little bit, because I feel like Wade's gonna be confused for a little bit. They've been friends for years, and all of a sudden it's whoa, you're no one that I thought you were. And And I feel like that's something that they could have worked on a little bit more as well. Those are all the actors I want to talk about. It is already getting kind of long. I apologize. Thank you for watching the video, though. But I think the main issue that I have with the movie is it felt rushed, and it was already kind of long. It was a long, rushed movie that, in my opinion, was just better as a book. Although, I think it's fun because it does a lot of really good fan service, and I had a lot of fun watching the movie, and that's why I can't give it a low rating. Even though I don't necessarily think it was exactly a masterpiece of a movie, I really enjoyed my time watching it, which in my opinion is almost as important as plot and character. And this film had plot and character, and it was good, and it was interesting, and it was engaging. The fan service was great. It just felt a little bit long, and the bad guy kind of felt meh. And for the most part, we spent a lot of the time in the Oasis, which felt like didn't really matter to us. But all that being said, I'm going to give this movie an A. Thank you all for watching this video. If you're not already, subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. Subscribing really helps me out a lot. If you watch my videos and you're not subscribed, which a lot of you are not subscribed, and you watch my videos, I'd appreciate it a lot if you just hit that red button down there and subscribe to the channel. If you want me to review something like this movie here, drop it down in the comments below. Join the Facebook group, and you can post it right in there, and I'll add it to my list of sticky notes right here. As you can see, I added another sticky note because I've gotten more. Late January, I have good news. We're starting the DCEU, so that'll be really fun. I haven't watched those movies, so I'm really excited about that. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. I am still uploading on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing Titanic. So I'm really excited to talk about that movie because I actually have never seen it until today. So I'm really excited to talk about it because it's a fantastic movie. With that, as always, keep watching movies and television, stay educated, and I will see you guys in the next video.